During these deleveraging events, three strategies are adopted by central banks. First, lower the interest rates. Interest rates are set by central banks, and they set the rules as to what is the cost of borrowing money. If they lower it, then it's cheaper to borrow money. Therefore, people will be more inclined to borrow this money. And this leads to the spiral of just wanting to borrow more and more and more because it's just easier to borrow. And right now, if we look at the numbers, the central banks all over the world have been doing this for years now. Because we work on a standard that is mostly based on the US dollar, what matters is what the US central bank does. And if they lower interest rates, then everyone else will also lower their interest rates. This increases the value of assets and makes it easier to get credits. This is the first strategy used. Today, these interest rates have already dropped drastically for the main economies and have turned negative in many. If interest rates drop to zero, then there is no logical financial incentive to lend money. It can continue for a while until it doesn't. Second, there's quantitative easing, also called money printing, what this guy was talking about. It allows the central bank to buy debt securities and financial assets. It places cash in the hand of investors, but doesn't help citizens. Asset prices skyrocket, usually creating inflation, which makes asset holders, that tend to be the wealthy, richer, and the poor, poorer, as their savings lose value. This is the case today, with real estate skyrocketing globally and other raw materials skyrocketing too. Third and last is increased welfare spending or other instruments such as stimulus payments. If there is any kind of crisis, well, the people that bought their house, they're not going to try and do any more financial schemes, things that would allow them to protect their investment because they just don't have the knowledge or the skills and even the instruments to be able to do that. So they're the ones that lose the most, right? Because investment banks, they know what's coming, they know how to deal with it, and they'll get out of it. But this creates basically a gap between the rich and the poor. And this is a lot due to money printing, because this money gets distributed into the economy, but it doesn't get distributed into the hands of people. It gets paid to banks, it gets paid to investors, and it just gives them another business, and it gives them more cash to be able to take on more positions and themselves invest into many different assets, whether it's stock exchange, can be gold, anything. The poorer people don't have these options, and they don't have this money directly attributed to them. So it means that while all of this is happening and people are getting rich, others are getting poorer because the savings that they have in the bank are losing value because of this money printing. And because of that, what governments need to do is they need to help their citizens more, because of course no one wants a wealth gap. I mean, it's not because you're part of this elite, let's say, that is in a better position financially, that you want the poor people to be in a bad situation. Like, everyone has to be elevated in society, and these people need to be helped directly through financing, whatever form it takes. And in fact, if you look at the numbers, it's since the crisis of 1929, which was the first big financial crisis after getting off the gold standard that I was mentioning at the beginning, that this welfare spending has increased so much. And now in France, for example, there's above 30% of GDP that goes to welfare spending. France is quite famous for that. It has one of the best medical systems, but it also goes with how you support people that are unemployed. Different stimulus payments help for home allowances and this kind of thing. That is of course good for people that need it, but is only necessary because of these actions that are taken beforehand. More recently, we know social spending has increased due to the COVID crisis. So we can only presume that the chart now looks more like this.